All right. So here are the 7 big lessons that I learned in 2023, which was my first full year of my coaching business. And w- what how I'm using those lessons and mistakes, because I believe all mistakes are just lessons, because they're only a real mistake or a failure if we don't take something away from them to iterate on and improve. Um, because you want to have those feedback loops in your business. Everything's feedback, and feedback is, you know, neutral. Feedback can be positive, it can be negative, but really I just treat it as neutral. But why the first year of business is so hard is that even if you're adopting someone else's systems, templates, frameworks, etc., like, you're still creating every system and asset in your business from the ground up, even as you're implementing their, even if you take a template, you usually have to tweak a template to work for you. Um, you have to tweak somebody's system to work with whatever tools you're using or things like that. It's all from the ground up. So even if you've got kind of an outline to follow or a roadmap to follow, they're still putting in the work to implement that roadmap. And the biggest lift of that is the content, because people can't create your content for you, and it actually be effective in getting the best clients that you want to get. Um, because you also won't know what does or does not work for you until you actually implement different systems and strategies, and even sometimes software, and give them enough time, to usually about 3 to 6 months minimum, to know if they work for you, or are effective in attracting your best client. Um, there's also the problem of following so many different um, mentors, or I refer to them as bizfluencers, both affectionately and sometimes a little side-eyed. But the thing is if you follow so many different sources of information, you're going to be hearing of like, well, I should be building my list. Well, I should be creating content. I should have a website. Should have. So you're getting kind of like shoulded all over yourself. And so because everyone is telling you everything that you should be doing in your business, and like, here are the things you have to have in place to grow, those may be true, but they're not talking about the overall timeline in which they have developed these systems. A lot of times, the people that are social media inspiration, or um, online business mentors, and whether that's like through you're just following their content and getting the free content and not necessarily working with them, I don't mean it in that sense, but your online business influences, you're seeing them, 3, 5, 10, 20, etc. years in their business. And so if you're just starting out, like, you can't implement everything all at once. And even if you're trying to, like, stair step and work multiple projects forward at the same time, like I did this year, like, it burns you out. And it it's also really stressful because it feels like you have to have it all in order to start building your cash flow. And that really just isn't true. Um, going back to this, if you're just thinking about what you should be doing, like, your number one job is to get clients. Um, and to do that, you have to consistently attract them. And so, again, this is very, very simple. It does not have to be complex. If you've got just this in place, you're golden. Because I have, if you're in your first year of business, getting clients and creating the content that gets you those clients are like the two most important things you can do. Um, I I would argue an email list builder is also included in that list. Like those are the top three things, but you don't need a website. You don't need to have a full offer suite. You don't need to have um, a lot of these other things that people are telling you that you need. Sometimes it's you get to that point. So knowing where you're headed is important. But if you don't have the the core pieces that make you money in place, which is fulfilling client fulfillment, a way for that client to even book you in the first place, something to attract that client or find that client, it's not going to happen. And for me, I think the biggest struggle has been the content creation, because I don't haven't developed my system around it yet. And so the reality too is consistency doesn't happen without systems, and you have to have clarity and focus on your business foundations in order to set those systems up. And so, one thing I'm going to be doing, especially at the forefront, and I've been doing the last couple of weeks, is setting those strategic business foundations up in my business. So that way I have something solid that as I'm building and focusing on, like that's what's going to keep me grounded. That's what's going to keep me focused as I move on into 2024 and beyond. Because trying to, again, implement everything bit by bit, but also all at once, instead of really just focusing on those basics, it's going to stress you out and make it that much harder to achieve like positive cash flow in your business. Um, so, number two, excuse me, let me grab a drink. So the second lesson that I took away from 2023 is that, and this is something I've kind of always like known on a level, but it really, really hit home this year, is sustainable coaching businesses require strong foundations. And when I'm talking about like a sustainable coaching business, it's one that doesn't burn you out. You know, you are able to spend time with your family and not, you know, neglect time with the people or the things, or doing the things that matter most to you. Um, and in order to do that, you have to know one, your own personal foundations and goal setting, which I'm not going to fully get into here, but I am going to create more content around those things. But ultimately, when it comes to foundations of your business, it is, you know, you're not going to get sales if you don't have an offer that your best client will buy. At the end of the day, no sales, no business. There's not any two ways about that. You can't create your offer if you don't have a clear picture of who your best client is. This starts with identifying your best client slash, some people call this market or niche. But I prefer to think of it like individually as a person, because that one person is representative of a much wider group. And plus, again, it's more, you have more connection when you're talking one on one with a person versus if I'm trying to address a whole group, because I'm not. And really focusing on that one person allows me to develop something that is unique in my marketplace, specifically to serve the transformation my best client is wanting. And it makes it a lot easier to speak to where I know they are now and what they're thinking, feeling, and they're doing because of where they are. And it also lets me look forward and cast that vision of, I know what they want to achieve, I know what they want, and so that lets me create an offer that bridges where they are now to where they wanna be. This is very basic marketing positioning 101 type stuff, and that's something that's really easy to say, but, I mean, there's a whole process of getting there, but again, you that's where all roads leading to that sales conversation is going to shortcut the process for you instead of just trying to guess on it. Um, but again, your offer should bridge where they are now to where they want to be. Your best client wants to know that you've got a system, that you have a clear process that they can follow to get the result that they want. There's a lot of different beliefs in there that they have to have. They have to believe that one, they even have a problem that you can help solve. Two, they have to believe that that it will work for them, and they have to believe that you're the one that will help them solve the problem. And you have to make sure that you have systems set up for your business administration and use them. So let me pull this up, and this is the last tab over here. Uh, so I think of systems in terms of like ecosystem, and your business is that organism um, that you want to thrive. And so you've got your business foundation. So knowing your ideal client, your offer, your mission, vision, values, all of that, and then your business admin system. So your finances, your legal, all of that, those things. The marketing is how you get the message out there. Nurturing is how you get them to the point where they do convert, whether it's investing in your program, booking that call, whatever that looks like. And then there's all of the other, like the tech that brings all of that stuff together um, as well. So that's kind of what I see as the foundations of your business. You need even just like the basic systems in place. And for me, that's honestly the finances part of it because I don't like doing books, but I mean, you have to if you are a business owner. That's just comes with the territory. So number three is lack of focus that confuses you and your potential clients. Um, when you are starting out, and at this point, I've been in business for about a year and a half, and you get one thing that kind of works, and you're seeing what people will buy, what they want, and you're gonna have successes, you're gonna have failures, and so the temptation is like, well, that didn't work. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next thing and try this. But all you're doing is one, if you have a VA or somebody that works for you, you're making it a lot harder on them to do their job well because it's like, okay, great. What are we doing this week? Or how are you going to change your mind? How is she going to change your mind? And suddenly we're doing this. Now we're doing this. And so having the courage to kind of commit to one path is something that I'm taking in 2024. Because the reality is, for every offer that you have, there is one best client for that offer, and and that offer is developed solely around that one best client. Multiple offers actually mean that you're running multiple businesses at the same time. Any wonder why we feel so tired? um, so the goal is to grow into the complexity. You heard me say that earlier. And if it's something that like you just feel you're either at an unsustainable pace or something like this, like really look at how focused you are. And if you feel focused, then there's other things, but like really focusing on um, because if you're confused in your business, you can bet that your team and potential clients are as well if you have a team. Um, and I said it earlier, confused people don't buy, and they don't sign up. They're going to move on to the next person who's clear about who they serve, what they do, who they are, what they stand for, how they like to do business, all of that. Um, and being clear is actually something that will help you rise above the noise. Because if everybody's just kind of the same low level conversation, but somebody clearly shouts from across the room, who's going to get noticed? Um, and the other part of that, and what's going to keep you focused, is creating systems to help you document and documenting the decisions that you make. So this includes like documenting your business's mission, vision, and values. If you did it, and even hanging on to some of the scratch work of how you did that. I have a Notion template that is a business foundations template. I'll include it um, as one of the resources as well, because by having these things documented, um, you work with a contractor and they're like, hey, well, what is your brand, what's your mission, like what are these things that I need to know in order to make sure that the product or project you've paid me for is going to work for your business, because they want to set you up for success, but they don't always know to ask those questions to do that. And so by having all of that there, it's going to keep you focused on the days where things are hard. It's going to help you just getting it out of your head too. Just brains are good for having ideas, not holding them. That I believe is from David Allen from Getting Things Done. Um, and once they're out of your head, you can also work with them a little bit more. So just because you write it out once, especially if you do it digitally like I do, you can adjust, refine, tweak, and all of that. And then that becomes that guiding force and that overall foundation that you do, because that has to be outside your head. If you ever hope to hire or delegate your work in a meaningful manner, because I know I struggle with delegation because I don't want something. I'm like, I have standards. Well, the way you can hold somebody to standard is you have to have it documented, so that way it's out of your head, and you can even share these different things with your audience, because that's where they're going to know what makes you different and what makes you the best choice for them, because people are going to want to connect with the content that's based around your mission, vision, and values. Which again, Doxer didn't happen, which brings me to number 4, which is document all the things. Your first year really is your origin story and brand story and foundation. These are going to be valuable down the road, and if it's something that you haven't really ever thought of or documented before, like take a minute, like do an extra, like, what is your brand origin story, or where did your business come from? How did you become a coach? Where did all of this come from? Because other than like looking back to get motivation for like, hey, this is where I was a year ago and now I'm here. So a year ago I had a email list of 13 people. I'm now over 200. And so that's something that has happened in the last year. I have um launched some different things, and so seeing those differences actually helps, because it's like I'm proving to myself that I can. And that's why documentation is important, because when you're having a hard mindset moment, you can look back and use it to either help you grow, remind you that you can do the hard things that you might be avoiding in your business, content creation, um, and the results that happen when you push through and when you do the things you've been avoiding. For me, a lot of that has been driving people to sales calls. But yet, that's the one thing I know I need to do to take my business where I need it to go and to serve the people I know need my help and that I want to help that are out there. And the reality too is if you aren't documenting the processes in your business, you cannot delegate or hire them to a VA or a contractor um, to help you get back to the coaching that you would rather be doing. Um, you're also wasting a lot of brain power and energy pseudo reinventing the wheel every time. Or if it's one of those like, well, I'll just do it because I'm going to be able to do it faster. Well, take that time to go through it. And actually, that reminds me, I'll have to look it up. But I know there's another AI tool out there I haven't played around with that actually helps you develop the standard operating procedures by just, kind of keeping track of like you clicked on this, you did this to help you create those things. So there's tools that are out there that can help you with this documentation that aren't necessarily going to add to your workload or level, but sometimes it is worth going through because when you're writing it down, you're questioning and validating like every step of that process to see like, oh wow, I don't have to do all these things that I tend to do. I can just jump from here to there. I've even kind of hit on some of those for myself in just this conversation. And with and one thing that'll also make your life a lot easier, this doesn't necessarily have to do with like processes and things, but make it a habit to collect B-roll content that you can use as background for short form content like reels. And when I say B-roll, that's, if I had my phone over here, either just kind of recording or even, some of the off to the side where you see people working or something like that, people don't have to see, but I can use that as a background. If you're, just out walking around, you can take that. B-roll stuff that like what I'm doing here, this is talking head style video versus screen share versus if I was just talking and it was just kind of like this moving scene or something like that with a voiceover, that's the B-roll stuff. So if that's not something you're familiar with, hopefully I've explained it well enough. I would also encourage you to check out like YouTube things on that if you want more information on B-roll. I'm learning it myself. But you can also use the B-roll strategically to tell your business story alongside your other content as well. And the part that people also don't like about documenting all the things is part of documenting is measuring and tracking things in your business regularly, because you can't improve what you're not measuring. I believe that's from Measure What Matters. Um, and because the data that you get will help you know where to focus your efforts in the future. Um, and that's just going to allow you to say, hey, I'm dropping like the one thing that's not working the best, or if you talk about a bunch of different topics, well, what topics maybe aren't getting the exposure? Of course, we'll look at some other things, but it lets you make those informed. I believe in data informed decisions, not data driven, because you can get data that leads down a path that isn't necessarily in the best interest of your best client. And you can use that, but if you're at the end of the day, data should have a seat at the table. It's not at the head of the table. Which brings me into my fifth point. So, tough truth. You remember, like, I'm a coach. No, you're a CEO. And so you really have to think and act like one. CEOs use data. So you have, if data is something you've been avoiding, you have to start looking at it. Start with whatever data you might have. And if you have questions about what you're looking at or what you're seeing or how to interpret it, please, like, reach out to me, via DM, share it in our Facebook community. I will be happy to take a look and answer that because data is so important to building a sustainable business that is not going to burn you out. And because a CEO uses data, They don't blindly follow someone else's method or advice without measuring whether or not that method is working for their business, which means that it's working to attract their best client. Because people are saying like, well, this is the one way that you have to do or should be doing something, or you have to do this or you're not going to grow your business. Like, there's more than one way to grow a business. That's why it's so hard to do, is because everybody's telling you what they think is best, but the data is what informs you of what's working best for your business. What works best for the coach that's saying, yeah, I had a course launch that was 6 figures. Like, well, are they a business coach and you're a health coach? Is their best client you, or is their best client the same as your best client? So it's always kind of asking the question of like, so what's going to work for them is of course going to be different than what works for you. But the important thing is that CEOs are decision makers. Your pricing is right because you decide it's right. Your offer contains what it does because you're the expert who knows what your best client really needs. That's why they're coming to you for a diagnosis of what the issue is, not just a laundry list of, well, it could be this, this is, we'll go through my program, we'll find out. Like, no, like, you're the coach, you're the expert, lean into that. So decide, commit, and move on. Like, if you have to, set a decide date, which is, I'm somebody that I enjoy research and I do a lot of research. And that's part of my job and part of how I operate. And it's a good thing until it's, oh, I've spent all this time doing research but haven't implemented anything. And so having that cutoff date of, okay, I'm deciding what my offer is by this date. I'm deciding this by this date. And then you make that decision and then you commit and just follow through on it. Because a lot of times the decisions that we make and then we go back on or change, it really is not giving you a chance to go deep and actually figure out maybe what isn't working in something, or not. Because you really want to review the results that you're getting because of through your decisions, and adjust or tweak maybe the tactics as you get more information and feedback specifically from your best clients. The other thing that CEOs do is that they set the vision for their business and then align their strategies, decisions, and actions to that vision. And this requires planning and a commitment to actually executing the plan. I'm a chronic planner, not always the best at executing. That is something I'm committing to, of deciding and then executing the plan for like 6 months to a year. But during that time, I'm still adjusting the tactics, clarifying messaging, and as I'm maybe getting a clear vision or things, realigning things as I go, but not ever really losing sight of what that end vision of what I want my business to accomplish, what I want my business to accomplish for my personal life, what I want my business to accomplish for my clients. Like, those are big things that don't change, but how I go about them can, and that's what you can kind of adjust. And the other big thing is, like, the vision that you have should be documented as part of your business foundations. So that way I can share it with my best clients. And you can share it with yours, because people, your best clients are going to be attracted to the vision that you're painting for them. What you're showing them is possible is what is going to cement that belief of, okay, what she's saying is possible. And how you go about that and the other ways that you connect is, okay, yeah, I believe this will work for me. And an audience will buy into that vision, and that vision's also there for you to keep you motivated and clear on what you're working toward when things get tough. That vision can also, and this is another way you can use AI, is like, here's my vision. What are some, goals or mini milestones or things that I need to do to achieve this vision? So you can kind of brainstorm things that way. Um, but CEOs are decision makers and they set the vision for the company and they use the data. Like that's the big, big piece. And so all this is kind of coalescing into something I'm calling like commit to one for six. And this is kind of a play on a coach by the name of like GD Weber. She's a Christian business coach, and I've been kind of consuming a lot of her content lately. Hers is a bit more simple than this, and is a little bit different, but just the very idea of you've heard me say one, like over and over again. So the idea of committing to one for six, and what I mean by that is it's like you commit to one best client and focusing on them for at least 6 months because it will take you this long to really deeply connect with them, get to know them better than they know themselves, and to keep your best client avatar updated and more effective beyond like just the first draft that you use as your starting point. Every documentation that you have in your business should be living documentation that you revisit and update as you need, um, because that's what's going to keep it in a way that's going to grow with you. Um, and then for that one best client, you're going to commit to focusing on one transformation for that client. Being a coach means that we're taking people from where they are now to where they want to be. And so thinking about like where does your best client want to be? What is your one transformation or result? And this is usually more of like going from, and I'll just take my own health currently, being completely sedentary to feeling the strongest that I can be. Um, like there's a gap there, but and there's any one of a number of ways that I can achieve this goal. Whether that's weight loss, eating healthy, growing my own food, there's a lot of different ways to go there, but I'm focused on the transformation of I'm a couch potato to I know that I'm strong and healthy and I could probably do a bit more visualization for myself on what that looks like, but just being strong and comfortable in my body. That's the big thing. Um and then based on the different coaches or different things that the different offers that you might have, that would be different ways that you can achieve that one transformation. So you've got your one best client, the one transformation, because they're not trying to fix my whole dang life. They're focused just on that one aspect of it. So for me, that's okay. I'm focusing on core prospect of you know taking somebody that they've made six figures, but they're kind of running into a wall while they're trying to scale, and they don't really know what's going on, or they're too busy handling the clients that they haven't been able to get any of the systems or things in place, and they're just getting burnt out, to having a business that is scalable, that doesn't exhaust them, that actually gives them that freedom that they got into coaching for in the first place. um, and again, talking through that a little bit better, but then once you have your transformation, that's where you commit and promoting, and this is going to be the hard part, is one offer to get your best client that transformation for at least 6 months. And for some of you, that could be revamping an offer that you already have and focusing on getting it to work efficiently. Or in the case for me, that's actually coming up with an entirely new one based on the needs that I've seen in the market and in talking to people that are like my best client. And once you've got one best client, one transformation, one offer, you're going to create one powerful lead magnet that naturally sets up your offer as the fast track to getting your best client the results. You can revamp an older one if you've got. For me, it's such a big shift and change that I'm just going to start with new. And that's not to say you can't use what you've already done. That can just become like I can take the lead magnets and the guides that I've done, and that just becomes part of an asset library for the people that are in my coaching program. Because it wasn't something that I've promised to be an indefinite free thing. It's just a lead magnet at that point, and you can rotate them in and out. It's your business. You can decide. All right. So one best client, one transformation, one offer, one lead magnet that sets it up, and so for the lead magnet, you've got your overarching transformation. Within the lead magnet, you're focusing on one problem that could be holding them back in their transformation journey. And then at the end of that lead magnet, there is one clear next step for your client to take once they've finished it. Again, if you're focusing on one-on-one work like I am, that would be book a call. If you are selling a digital product, it would be whatever the most relevant digital product could be. It depends on what your business focus in 2024 is going to be. So once you've got that, you now can pick one main platform that your best client is on and focus on that one platform for optimized content creation for the next 6 to 12 months. The reason why this one is longer is because of the time cycle that, especially if you're creating a blog, and again, SEO can pick up social posts. That's a whole thing nobody talks about. Focus on that for 6 to 12 months, because then you're going to have a lot better data as to what topics, what types of content, and what does the best for your best clients, what's going to convert well. See how this is all kind of coming full circle here? And so you can still distribute to other platforms if you want. Those are just bonuses. Like you're focused on growing on one platform where your best, again, not where your audience is, where your best client is. So for me, I'm evaluating like that could be LinkedIn rather than Instagram. I might still do Instagram. I don't know. Again, I have a decision date for that. And so the key thing though, when you are picking your platform is you want it to have a DM capability because your goal is to generate conversations, whether that's conversations on a sales call or conversations via DM that may or may not lead to you offering that sales call. But all of that includes focusing on one format. So the format I've decided on is I'm creating video content. The other options are, of course, audio and written. The reason I'm doing video is because I can get the audio and written off of that. And if I decide to repackage those later as podcasts or whatever, I have those assets available to do that. So for your platform, that also includes format, publishing schedule, and generally like once a week is where I'm going to start. And commit to the consistency for once a week to my chosen platform for 6 to 12 months. And where I'm going to share my content for free so others can find me. So that does include the social media platform, um, or I am doing it on a blog as well. So, uh, so whatever that looks like for you in your business, focus on that. And then once you have kind of that package, the sixth bullet point, so 1 for 6, is you've probably already made investments in either courses, programs, frameworks, something that you might have done and not completed or not seen all the way through. And a lot of times you have to go through a full cycle with something to get that full benefit. And because, as I mentioned before, you're paying attention to, about a course from this person and this person, and there's this and this and this. Like, one of the things I pre-decided for 2024 is I have a list of the I have it with 3, so this is a little deviation from, but basically I have 3 people that cover slightly different areas. 2 of them do kind of overlap, but basically, like, those are the 3 voices I am allowing in my space for 2024 so I can, tune out anybody else because the 3 of them are very complementary in what they cover, how they approach things in a way that, feels right, and that I know from my own experience of, like, 15 years in tech and marketing, that will work for how I want to do business. So that's, again, why your foundations are important, because how you want to do business and how you show up should dictate everything else. So, committing to, I have one person's methodology that I'm following, and I'm going all the way through it because, again, investing in courses and not implementing, you don't really get a feel for what works and what doesn't. And so, again, this could mean only choosing to listen to one person's podcast on a topic. So, if that's email marketing, you don't listen to 6 different email marketing podcasts. You have one. That way, you're not getting that cacophony of strategies and noise from all over, because the goal is to limit the inputs so you can focus on execution and output. And then the final point, and this is where it's kind of come full circle for me, is if you're early in your coaching business, like I am, so I'm talking like first 3 years, and that's not to say you couldn't add different things beyond that, but like definitely your first 3 years, you cannot skip one-on-one as a coach. I did this. I tried this. And so, I've done workshops, so digital products, um, and some of it is my own implementation of things, I'll be honest. That, like, I could have my Google Analytics workshop that is a digital product and it's out there. Um, and I have had it, but I've kind of pulled everything back specifically because I want to be the example to show you, like, this is what the power of really leaning into what can be extremely scary things, because the whole that old adage is, well, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, the reality too is, like, I still have a full-time job, I have a family, I have a farm. Oops, and I'm knocking things over. um, and so I have to, for my own sanity, for my marriage, for everything. And so focus on the one thing, because I don't have the time necessarily to go beyond and try to fill all those little gaps in my value ladder and all the other stuff. Um, I will get there, but, like, my number one job as the CEO of ITERATEOLOGY is to attain and maintain a positive cash flow in my business without burning myself out. And so the most effective way that, if you're in the same stage that I am, or the same kind of like your um, earlier years of business, the best way to do this is through one-on-one work. Now, to some of you that are familiar with, like, I'm a class certified business and marketing coach. And for those of you that have been part of that community as well, this is not anything new that you're hearing. This is something I have resisted and fought on and on for a while. And guess what? She was right. There's a reason why one on one as a coach. Now, if you're some other type of business, like I'm focused on coaches here. Um, the most effective way to do that is through one on one because of the higher price point that you can charge that will make the cash flow piece of it a lot easier. Um, and it takes the well, those are some of the kind of additional points. So essentially, cash flow is the main reason because that fulfills my responsibility as a CEO of making sure that my business is an asset rather than an expensive hobby. Um, and it's also sustainable over the long term. Because especially if you are a coach, you know, you've probably invested in coaching programs and you're trying to get that return on the investment. I've done that. Um, but I also know that for me, I've been scattered in what I've done. So that's why I'm returning to, okay, we're gonna go with the one-on-one. The reason why is through one-on-one work, you're going to really get to know your best clients well. And again, these are the people that are willingly and happily pay your rates. Well, thank you for charging them. You know, are willing to put in the work and implement your recommendations. Or in some cases, if you're doing one-on-one coaching and you're helping implement like I do, um, you know, providing you with what you need to do what they need you to do. Um, and that you are able to get the results that you have promised them. And so through one-on-one work, it's in kind of the tech world, to kind of pull back for a second. I've done, you know, quality testing, to really try to break things. And so anytime we make like a product change or decision, so say we want to introduce a new feature in a platform or take away one, we're always asking like, what's the blast radius of this decision? So when you're doing the one-on-one work, it gives you that space to really, you know, build out your back end systems, make sure you've got an onboarding system in place. You're able to focus on the content creation, um, and other assets that you can leverage to down the road easily create group programs, courses, and other things that kind of create that passive. I hate that term. I prefer asynchronous income, but um, the income based on what people will buy, not what you think that they're going to find valuable enough to invest in. So you're solving a problem that exists in the market as opposed to here's a thing and now I got to go find a market to sell it to, which happens a lot more than you think, especially in the entrepreneurial and startup spaces. Um, and the other thing is it takes the same amount of time, effort, and energy as it does to sell one-on-one as it would a group program membership. Again, I've done membership stuff. You know, or any other digital product. Um, and because if you're in your first year and you're creating your content, that's going to help you more because if you're doing one-on-one, you have more bandwidth to create the content based on the questions you're getting in your coaching sessions, and you can really build out your like, I have a success path that I have thought through and that I look at, but one of the things that I've struggled with in the membership is and the reason I've had, like, the founding members rate is because it will I'm creating the content as I go, which there's not a problem with that, but since I'm gonna be creating content as I go anyway, I'm shifting back towards focusing on, one-on-one, specifically so that I can create content that I know is going to help those people because 'cause they're getting my these are direct questions, as opposed to, "Hey, I think, content would be a good theme for January, and I'll talk about content in my membership." I mean, I'm doing that, but there's if it's content you've gotta create anyway, I'm gonna be able to leverage those questions, and I'll just need to structure them at that point, um, into it using Searchy and build a group program through that way when I introduce that. Or I could take something and just offer it as a one-off. It's a lot easier to do that way than it is to try to, um because the thing with coaching is because they're coming to you in a one-on-one capacity as opposed to, "Oh, well, I've got a course on SEO, I've got a course on Google Analytics." It's like, "Okay, what are we focused on right now in our engagement? Alright, and I know what content I need to create," or if I already have that content, it's like, "Okay, watch this video, and then I need XYZ from you, or then do XYZ." So just like, the content that converts, every content should always have that clear next step. Your job as a coach is to lay out that roadmap for them. Um, but again, it takes the same amount of time, energy, and effort to sell. And it because again, that higher price point, you are able to get that going well. And if you can sell at a high price point, adding in something that is that next tier down or whatever, you're already going to have an email list and more of that audience that's ready to buy, even if they're not ready to be that best client that is ready to invest in that one-on-one time with you. So that's one of the ways, and it's going to help me scale in the future and can help you scale as well. Um, and so all of this to kind of say is like my 2024 is going to be centered around going back to offering one-on-one fractional CTO slash CMO services. So this is a chief technology officer, chief marketing officer, coaching and services for female coaches that are making six figures or more. So that way they can effectively leverage tech and marketing to scale their businesses while saving time, money, energy, and preventing burnout. Um, and if you're not familiar with what a fractional CTO or CMO, or there's a lot of different like fractional type officers, this is seen a lot more in the startup space. But what it is I'm it's a strategic partnership that's more peer to peer versus, you know, taking the time to deeply get to know your business, your goals, and all of that, and then helping take the tech and operations and kind of marketing side systems lift off of you. You would still, create your content, but it's one of those is like, okay, here's your content plan. Go, this is what you need to create this month, and then you go do that. And if you've got a VA, helping build those systems and things that you need to either hire a VA or make your VA more effective. Um, it is not VA services because the difference between having a peer to peer is we can have those high level strategic discussions versus that's not really an appropriate discussion to have with somebody whose decision that you make might affect their job stability. Um, and so that's where I'm leaning into. I'm still, you know, nailing down what the deliverables for that would be with the details. And if it does sound like something that interests you or you're curious about it or just like to, you know, talk through it more, even, like, I would love to hop on a call with you to learn more about your business and challenges that you're facing as you're trying to scale, um, mainly because I'm doing my own market research for this, so that way I can make sure, again, lead by example, that what that offer looks like is something that is going to be beneficial to the people that I know that, my coaching mentor, Anna, she has her husband that handles all like the bulk of all of this for her. Not everybody has that that type of person in their business. And so I want to come along and partner with, business coaching business owners that are coaching CEOs that are doing really well. Like maybe you're so busy doing coaching that you haven't had time to really work on your business and systems to get things in a place to where you can scale or bring on more people or um, just do more of the things that you want to be doing. Um, but again, and I'll include that link as well below. Um, which I totally forgot to switch over to. You can't skip one-on-one as a coach. But if you are in your coaching business and you're starting out, or even if you've done like I did, I've done memberships and things like that, and memberships and workshops, and you've been trying to chase that passive, it may be time to go back to that one-on-one to like recenter yourself and you know get that part of your business going well, and then you can reevaluate your other things.